what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy
the little LSU and the transfer portal. And with that, I want to bring in Preston Guy from TigerBait.com. Preston, how are you today?
Hey, Taylor, what's going on?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. Thanks for hopping on with me this morning. Look, Preston, it is portal season, and it is the craziness of the transfer portal season. Obviously, LSU is targeting those defensive linemen. So, look, let's dive right into it. CJ West, Simeon, Barrow, Dominic Williams. I mean, those have kind of been the three guys that have been linked to LSU. Where do they stand with those guys?
Well, Simeon Barrow left campus yesterday, and from all reports, it was a very good trip this weekend. He's number one on just about everybody's list when it comes to defensive tackles. But he didn't have a trip planned when he got here, but he's now taking an official visit. He's taking a visit to Miami. So the feel was yesterday that it was all LSU. Nobody else really had a visit planned. But Miami's coming in. And the word I'm getting is Miami's making a strong push for him, and he's very interested. So that'll be a battle that continues to go on. Dominic Williams is locked in to take a visit Friday, and he'll be here all weekend long. He'd obviously be another huge pickup for this team, and we'll just have to see how that visit goes before we get more information. I do know that there's strong mutual interest, both parties. And then CJ West is a guy who's also visiting Miami. He doesn't have a visit date locked into LSU, but it's not going to be this week. It'd be a little bit later. So those are three guys. All three would be, plug and play starters at LSU right now. You really got to hit on at least one of those guys. You're down to 82 scholarship players now, which means you have more room. And the word on the street is they may get down to 79 or 80 before it's all said and done.
Now, Preston, we've talked about all three of those guys. Obviously, like you said, they are all plug and play. Is it just one of those things where it's like, hey, we're going to reach out to all these really talented players, hope we land one? Or do you think they have a specific pecking order in terms of which guy they hope to land?
Well, I think Simeon Barrow is a guy who, is number one on their list. I think they take all three if all three want to come, though, if that's what you're getting at. Certainly they've done their evaluations and have guys graded higher or lower than the other. But, the fact is they're completely decimated at defensive tackle right now. And they need guys. They need bodies, and they need quality and quantity at that spot. So looking at your roster needs, most of your spots are good on this team except for that one. So, I'm looking at what kind of positions they might take to fill up those 5 or 6 spots that are going to open up. And, I wouldn't be surprised if you see 3 or 4 defensive linemen come in this class.
Preston, another guy whose name kind of surfaced yesterday was Zack Swanson out of Texas. Yeah. Now, if you go look at his stats, it's nothing that jumps off the table. Actually played sparingly the last couple of years, but he's from Texas. He has familiarity with Bo Davis. What is LSU's chances with him, and what is it about him that Bo Davis likes so much?
Well, I think the familiarity with him and just knowing what you're getting, I think that would be more of a quantity fill, a guy you're hoping can come in and develop and do some stuff. I'm not so certain that you feel great if he's your lone defensive lineman you pull in because he just hasn't really produced that much. They want guys who've been on the field giving some experience, but obviously Bo Davis brought him in at Texas, so there's something you like there. I just wonder, how interested really is LSU in him, especially, if they did have to make a decision between him and, say, a top-notch corner that happens to enter the portal. They don't really have any corners they're looking at right now, but if there's a great guy that comes in, they might look at him. So it's an interesting situation there. Maybe he's a guy they bring in should they miss on some guys in the portal. That's just me speculating. I don't have any inside scoop, but you would think that if you can land multiple of these guys who are future NFL players and have plenty of experience, like the three guys we just discussed, you would think that maybe there might not be a spot for a guy like Zack Swanson. We'll see, though.
Now, Preston, let's say worst case scenario, they don't land any of these guys out of the transfer portal. What does LSU's D-line rotation look like in the fall?
Well, it's going to be a lot of Jacoby and Guillory. I'll tell you what, that's probably the one defensive tackle they really feel good about. And then Jalen Lee would probably be your starter across from him, a guy who really hasn't played that much in his college career. I think he's 4 years into his college career and really hadn't cracked a dent at LSU or Florida. So beyond them, you're going to, like, Sean Washington, the JUCO transfer. Dominic McKinley is going to be a guy who they're going to put on the fast track to developing and getting ready to go. But no, I don't think that you feel at defensive tackle. I don't think that you feel too good about that spot, honestly. And there's not too much you can do to kind of put makeup on that pig at that position, because it's either you got grown men who are ready to stop the run and keep offensive linemen off your linebackers, or you don't. You know what I mean?
What have you made of Kimo McEneal? Because, he moved over from O-line to D-line. We've rarely seen that work out, but he's a guy whose name popped up quite a bit. How did he look in the spring?
He actually didn't look too terrible. He got, a couple second team reps out there, was mixing in, and serviceable is what I would say he was. He's not exactly an explosive, pass rushing type player, but he was able to hold some blocks and take up some space, and that's solid. At this point, you absolutely need a guy who can do just that essential role of eating up blocks. That's just such an important thing, and there's not really too many guys to do it, so you were severely lacking on depth. At one point, LSU actually had walk-ons filling in that second team role for spring ball, so that's not ideal in the least bit. So I didn't see anything that makes me think he's going to go out there and be the next Glenn Dorsey, but he definitely gave some serviceable reps.
Preston Guy of TigerBait.com joining us right now. Preston, it's a little unorthodox to look at this way, but as far as other additions in the transfer portal, I know there's not a ton of names out there, but is punter a spot that they could be looking? Because Brian Kelly was less than pleased with the performance in the spring game.
Yeah, I was thinking about if they got 5 or 6 spots to open, what they would fill those spots with. We were kind of chopping it up. We think 3 or 4 defensive linemen, very possible. A punter, probably, especially if you get a good one. The other thing is they do have Badger Hargett there, but I don't think they're too happy with the consistency of either of those guys. And Badger's a guy, by the way, who's about 5'8", so not exactly like a great tackling prospect, you know what I mean? Whereas, they really would like to have 11 guys who can make a tackle on the field. So Badger would have to be substantially better to get the punting job. So yes, maybe punter is a spot. Running back is another spot. I could see them adding a guy, especially based on how, the Trey Holly's legal situation continues to play out. If they get a definitive answer and he's good to go, I think they're legitimately happy with the 4 guys if Trey Holly's there. If there's some question up in the air and there's a good running back available, I could see them going in that direction. And a corner is I could see them taking a very high-quality corner. They're not going for quantity. You don't need bodies at corner. You got guys transferring out at DB because you had 21 DBs on the roster. You had enough. The depth isn't your issue. You really need a quality player there who can, really do some good work locking down SEC receivers, because that's what you're lacking right now is that top-end talent at that position. So those are kind of what I have on my short list to keep an eye on, but we'll see what they do.
I'm glad you mentioned running back, because yesterday it broke about noon that former LSU running back John Emory is in the portal. Were you as surprised that I was that this guy has eligibility left?
Yeah, I thought he was trying to get into the NFL personally, but I'm almost wondering, is this a situation like Bronny James where he enters the portal and the draft and then just sees where it goes, which direction works out? There's a real possibility that based on his body of work, he wouldn't sign with a team, not even as an undrafted free agent. And, in that case, it would be better for him to go play for another college team and actually get on the field. I think it's just time has told that, it just hasn't worked out for him. And he tore his ACL this year. So, if he was having trouble touching the field at all as it was, imagine after an ACL tear and if he doesn't heal 100%. I think he just needs to go to a small school and see if he can get some reps and show out what he's got.
Well, that was the thing with him, right? I mean, we saw the flashes. Everybody was always wanting more with John Emory, and it just never worked out. When you say small school, like, are you thinking group of 5 or are you thinking like FCS?
At least group of 5. Honestly, if I'm John Emory and I'm giving him advice, I'm saying, look, man, go to a very small FCS school. Go to whoever is the easiest school that'll give you 20 carries a game. Like, you got one shot at it. I think it's one shot. I don't know. He's been in college since the 90s. Just go somewhere you're not really going to have to compete that hard for reps and put some film together, because you don't really have film. You have flashes here and there, but if anything has defined John Emory's career, it's inconsistency on and off the field. So he's got to just put together some stats. He's got to put together, 1,000-yard season or something like that. I don't think it particularly matters what level. Just show you can go out there and be a guy to rely on. I wouldn't mess around with it and try to, go to a Power 5 school and show that you can do it at a high level or whatever. Just do it at any level is what I would advise him.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.